Hi everybody, good morning. This is Jean here. I am just finishing up quilting my circle quilt. What I've had to do is, because it's a fairly large quilt, I was away for the weekend. I haven't been working on it. What I'm doing is I'm just going over it to see if I've gotten all the quilting, if I've hit all the quilting places. I know there's a spot here that's under my needle that I have to finish, but it's sometimes you quilt something and then you bind it and all of a sudden you realize, oh my goodness, there's a line that I didn't do. So there are a million circles on this quilt. So I'm going to go over this with a fine-tooth comb and see if I have all of the if I've quilted every, I look at the back, if I've quilted every inch of it. Oh, there's a spot right there. Yeah, so I'm just going to finish free motion quilting. There's just a few bits here. And then I'm going to bind it. Oh, there was, I got a lot of response from my free motion quilting tips. One of the ones that I forgot to mention, very important, is this the height of your chair. If you, I'm short. I'm only about 5'3", if that. I have an adjustable chair. Like, look. so like, actually, that's interesting because sometimes, like, you know, you can quilt up to your machine. And you don't realize it. You know, all your needles there, all, you know, you're quilting. When you're in free motion quilting, I put my chair up, not to the highest, but I put it up a little bit higher than that, actually. Yeah, if you know, oh, even higher than that, like that. So I'm quilting down to my machine. That way, if you can see, my arms are almost waist level. They're just like this. And remember, I was telling you to put all your energy into your hands. Well, if you're going up, you're already, you know, fighting that subconsciously. So I put my chair up high so that my arms are just level. And obviously, and again, I was remiss in saying, you obviously need an extension table when you're free motion quilting, because your hands are having to hold your quilt, or if your machine is set into a, you know, flush with your table. That's awesome too. So I'm just going to finish this up, quilting my little circles, and as you see, my arms, you know, it's just you know, it's easy. So I think that's it. I think there is one other little space. Now I'm going to come to the place. I'm going to come to my decision of binding, and I appreciate all of you guys' suggestions, and I got a tremendous amount of, oh, do it in black, right? And Ian came in, my husband came in, he says, oh, how about white? Because of, obviously I have the white satin stitching, and I'm like, I don't really want to bind a quilt in white, not really. And I didn't really want to use black, I really didn't. But I called in Elliot, and I'm like, Elliot, what the heck? I got out my stripe, right? And he's like, Mom, put the stripe away. I love my stripes, right? I thought that. So we auditioned hot pink with black dots. The stripe was, he said, too angular for the quilt. So what we, and I didn't want the black, although that's a frame, everybody was right. But what we chose is this fabric here, and I'll show you a close-up of it. It's like a dark blue. It's like a dark blue with a gold, like a tiny little gold scallop. But it reads from there, right? It reads like dark navy blue. So I like that, and it has a little bit of a softness, and it also, it also goes well with the backing. Because at first Elliot and I were both saying, well, why don't I just use the backing fabric, which I have enough of, to make nice strips of the backing fabric for my binding. But we thought we thought that would frame it nicely. So now what I'm going to do, I think I got them all. I think I've quilted everything, because why I'm doing this is I have to take my free motion quilting foot off and then start sewing around the edge. So I will then, I think I've gotten it all. Watch, I'll take my free motion quilting foot off, and then I'll find a space. Anyway, if I do. Oh, there's a little spot there. Because as I was saying to you, I was quilting this with these circles, and it's a big quilt. It works up, I say quickly. It's been days, a few hours. People say, how many, how often do you, how often do you sew? I'm in my sewing room yet. See, there's a bit there that I forgot to do. I'm in my sewing room a few hours a day, pretty much not on weekends though. Saturday or Sunday, because I go out in the ministry work, and we're busy on Saturday and Sunday. So there was a little spot there, and now I'll go over it again. What I will do is I will put my regular foot on, and I'm going to secure a stitch right around it. I'm gonna go right on the square here, and then I'm gonna trim off the excess batting. I think I'm pretty good. I think I'm gonna pretty good here. So I'm gonna take off my foot here, and then find my regular foot, and then put my machine back to where it all is for regular quilting. I like this Juki because it has a really nice substantial screw here for the foot pedal. So I'm going to put my feed dogs up, my stitch length, and then I'm going to put I got rid of all the tension on my machine, so I'm going to put this right to the middle. That puts the tension here. Got rid of all my tension, and now all I'm going to do is start at one end. I'm just going to sew around the edges to secure the whole quilt. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll be back, and I'm going to trim. Trim the batting off. Oh, there's a spot where I missed. There's a spot where I missed. I'm going to put a safety pin in there. Isn't that funny? I didn't do the circles on that edge. It's funny. No. I got to go over this whole thing. That's funny. See, I just took off my free motion quilting foot, right? So funny. So I'm just going to go around the edge. I find that when I secure the edge, about 1/4 of an inch in, that then I can trim off my backing and batting. If you guys who quilt, that's what you do. I wonder if there's any other places I missed. So I'm going to just continue doing that. And then I'll cut my binding, and I'll start making up my binding. So I have sewn all the way around my quilt. I'm on the other side of my sewing room. And I put a safety pin in this to find that free motion quilting place that I didn't do. I can't find it. I'll find it later and oh, here it is. Isn't that funny? There it is. I was looking and looking and looking. That's so funny. It's on the edge there, but I still have to go back and see. Now what I'm going to do, I got a really nice pair of scissors. Whose are they? Stainless steel. These are really nice. Oh, Singer scissors. Wow. I like Fiskars, but they were real pretty. I've got them not too long. No, I got them a while ago, and they're still really sharp. Like, what do you do when your scissors go dull? Oh, my phone, isn't that funny? We used to get them, oh, that's Maxwell. No. Yeah, it's funny. We used to get them sharpened. I don't know. I don't know what people do with their scissors anymore. A guy used to come into Joann Fabrics near us and sharpen the scissors. But he hasn't been there for a while. So I tend to sort of just buy new ones. I have like 10,000 pairs of scissors. How do you sharpen scissors? Oh, somebody got me a scissor sharpener. And it didn't really, or knife sharpener or something. But my son has knives. Not that he's like a terrorist or anything, but he has knives and he has a knife sharpener. He says, "Oh, it's not the same. It's not the same thing, Mom." I just don't think he wanted to sharpen my scissors. But these are really nice singers. So I'm just going to cut this off. Around the edge. And as you know, when I make my binding 2 1/4 inches, and I fold it in half, and then I stitch my binding to the back of my quilt, and then I turn it around to the front, and I machine stitch it down. I'm making sure I'm holding the backing, so I'm cutting that. And what am I going to do to my corners? Well, I have to on, oops, I have to on this quilt. Oh, this rotary cutter too, Olfa, the Splash, good rotary cutter, really, really good. Yeah, I'm going to curve my corners. Oh, I was reading, I'm just chatting today, I was reading about at the end of making a quilt, squaring it up. I don't know what that means, because I make a quilt and I've made dozens and dozens and hundreds of quilts, and they all are sort of square and good, or rectangular and good, or whatever they have to be, and good. So I don't know what that means. What I do is I'll like fold it in half this way and get my corners. Oh, this is a big quilt. Get my corners. I nearly fell over. Like that. There's those corners. Now this I always do think, oh, is it going to match up? And look, it matches up. It matches up that way. And then I do it this way. And I do it this way with these two corners. And I go that way. And I'm thinking, well, my quilt is, you know, square or whatever it should be, rectangular. And I do it this way. Oh, it's heavy. I'm feeling a bit weak today. And again, wait a second, go along. Oh, flipping heck. Go along, and there, my two corners. Slightly out. You didn't see that. That's good. So anyway, then I come along and I take my two corners. I dropped my scissors. Oh, here they are. I take my two corners. You've seen me do this. And actually, I do it on the right side. I do it on the right side, so I can see what I'm doing. Put these two corners together. And this is a heavy old quilt. So all the fabric it's in, it's nice. It's a heavyweight, heavier, substantial quilt. So these two corners are together. Oh, look at that! They're the same exact fabric. Isn't that funny? Look, on each corner. Isn't that funny? That was not planned at all. So now I'll put those two, and then I can just make sure this is all straightened up. I just eyeball that from about that point. This is just a, and I go like that, and do the exact thing. There's my curved corner, and then I'll come down here and put these two corners together. They're different. They're different fabrics. Put these two corners together and take one of them, which is like the template, put them perfectly together, and then on that same exact profile, cut that. They're my four corners. Done. Now, what I'm going to do, oh, excuse me, I have an itchy nose. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my binding. This is a lot. This is a big quilt. So, oh, I have enough. Yeah, plenty enough. So, I'm going to take my binding, and I'm going to take this handy dandy, and my Fiskar's handy dandy ruler, and this, my 2.5 inch. Oh, it's not, oh, I used this. I used it already. Oh, mate. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, yeah, you people who don't like doing this, you better turn aside right now, because I'm going to rip the lengthwise grain with my scissors. Oh, I'm going to rip. I'm not going to cut it crosswise because I used this fabric before. Yeah. So I have a lot. Yeah. I have a lot of lengthwise, and I don't have as much widthwise. So I'm going to get rid of that selvage. Somebody said, oh, I don't like the sound of ripping fabric. But I can get nice long. I only need about 6 of them, maybe. Mark at 2 1/4 inches. Cut it 2 1/4 inches. Cut another one, 2 1/4. And I'll just rip these. There's a binding strip. Whoops. I don't normally rip fabric. But I do find like for this or for backing, it's okay. It's all right. So I'm sort of eyeballing how much I need. You know, again, people like measure it. That one. That one. Like people measure the inches. I'm like, I always have more than enough. Oops. And yeah. So then I'll go. I sort of think, well, that's my quilt's big. I've done 5 of them. I'll do one more, and I'll probably have a little bit left over. And then I'm fine with that. Now I'm gonna go sew these together. What I'll do is I'll sew them together on the you know, right sides together like that to make the diagonal seam, and then I'm going to press them. I'm going to fold them in half. I'm going to fold it in half and iron it really well, and I'll make my binding, and then I'll be binding my quilt. I've made my binding. I've sewn it together. I think I cut 6 of them, or I ripped 6 of them, but I've only put 5 of them together. I think I have enough with 5 of them. I should measure, but I don't. So now I'm going to press them in half. This was good fabric, but man, it frays. It frays a lot. So there's my bias seam. Frame, yeah. There's my little seam there. I'm going to press that open. And this fabric, I had to be careful because it has a directional print. As you can see, my little, sort of the scallops, the little gold scallops have to go one way. Pretty fabric. Oh, pretty. Oh, excuse me. I'm eating a Jolly Rancher. I'm going to choke. Yeah, so the little scallops have to go one way. Oh man, there's a lot of fraying threads on this. So I'll just continue pressing this in half, making a nice crisp binding. Oh, have you guys seen this? I think I've shown you before. This silicone pad. What happened was I didn't purchase this myself. I order, as you know, quite a bit of stuff from equilter.com. That's sort of my go-to place for fabrics. I get a lot on clearance if you go to their clearance section for backing and things. And I guess because I'm a decent enough customer, I have been for many years, they send me stuff at the end of the year. And I'm like, oh my word, that's so kind of them. And this year, one year it was a really nice pair of scissors. I mean, really nice pair of scissors. And this year, I got that. I got this silicone pad. And, you know, from their shop. You know, very, very nice. And I don't know who it's made by. It's just a silicone pad. But I've looked at them. I think they're about $10 at the store. Boy, now I have the I have this Olicio Pro iron, which, as you can see, it has the iTouch. It's hand, you know, generated. So I leave my iron down anyway because I know it's not going to, you know, I don't have to pick it up and do that every time. This is the whole purpose of it. It's really nice. My hands are strong, but it's just so nice to not, you know, not have to mess with my iron. But I still put it on my mat there because, to be totally honest, this is my third one. I've dropped 2 of them. That was my bad. Smashed to smithereens. But I purchased a third one. I think this is about my third one in maybe 14 years, no, 12 years or so. I got the first one when it came out at a quilt show. I love this iron. They're not cheap, but I love it. It's fantastic. But even though it lifts up, I still, because I was given it, I still use that pad. But if you have a regular iron, what a nice thing. A silicone pad saves your ironing board. Saves your ironing board. So anyway, I'm nattering on here. So I'm just going to finish up my binding. So I'm putting my binding. I finished all my binding. I just keep it in a heap next to my thing. You've seen me do this before. And I start on the back of my quilt. About, I don't know, about 18 inches down from the top corner. And I leave about 6 or 7 inches of tail. And I put the raw edges to the raw edge. And I do backs. Oh, there goes my thread. I just changed my thread from when I was free motion quilting. And now I have to thread my machine again. Sometimes it's so funny. You can thread your machine for whatever and it's working perfect. Other times you thread your machine exactly the same way, right? And all of a sudden, you know, you walk away to go to the bathroom or something, you come back and your machine's tension's all messed up. It's like, what's up with that? And it's so funny. I was sewing last night. I don't usually sew into the evening time. Ian and Elliot were in my sewing room. We were having a chat. And I had been sewing and pretty much during the day, and I usually turn off my machine. Well, they came in. It was like 8:30. I'm usually in bed. And they came in, and I had been sewing perfectly wonderful, and the same sort of thread, the same tension, and all of a sudden my machine started messing up, and it was breaking thread. I I've been sewing all day. I'm thinking my machine is tired. It's just so funny. Wants to go to bed. Stop sewing, Mom. And the boy, Ian and Elliot were watching me, and they're like, what's going on with your machine? Because it's like breaking, and I'm like, what the heck? And we're chatting away, and they see me unthreading it, and I think I went and got another thing of thread. And they're like, what is going on? And I said, I think my machine is tired. We all need to go to bed. So I'm going to stitch this on. Now, as you can see, I'm sewing. I like that binding. I'm sewing it to the back side, and I'm using a dark blue thread. And then when I turn it over, there, for you black binding people, it's almost. You were right. It needs a dark frame around it, but this is dark blue with little gold scallops on it. So I still haven't. It's funny. I still haven't finished free motion quilting that bit. I have to put my free motion quilt, my free motion foot on, and I'm looking this the whole time, and I'm thinking, oh, I hope there's no other place. I think it was just that one. I'm looking at this, and it's like galaxies. It really is like what is it, the Aurora Borealis, the Northern Lights, up wherever that is. How cool is that? Have any of you seen that? Oh, look at all these strings. What the heck? Oh my word. Have any of you been to the Northern Lights? I have a friend who live, we have friends who live in England who went. Sort of on a bucket list to see. Or not. I can look at fabric. So here I am coming to my corners. What do I do? So I'm coming to my corners, and I just relax my fabric. I'm not pulling. I relax it about 6 inches up from the corner. Right on that 1/4 inch. Your tendency is to go in, but don't ever go in. Push it up, back under the presser foot. Bite by bite. You've seen me do this 100 times. If you like making curved corners. And that way, if you don't pull it, and you just take it ever so slowly, and you keep it real relaxed, right around that corner, then you will get a nice flat curve. A nice flat curve. You don't pull it at all. In fact, you sort of push it. Oh, look at my shoulders up around my ears. I always say, bring your shoulders down. I'm like, yeah. No, to do this, it's intense. Not really. And I don't want my corners to like cup. Nasty. You want your quilt, okay, Jean? Yeah, you want your quilt nice and flat. So let me see if that was okay. Yeah, there you go. See? See how that? Oh, it's so funny. It's so funny. Okay, excuse me. Oh, it's nobody. It's nobody. It's a robocaller. Unbelievable. Unreal. Maxwell had texted earlier, as you know. He was looking at a Lego robotics kit, something on eBay, and I purchased a few things on eBay, but it has like 5 days left, and he's panicking like, oh, let's make an offer, and I'm like, let's just hold off. And I always say to Maxwell, we'll see. We'll see about that when he inquires about something. And in his very astuteness, he always goes, that means no. I'm like, no. It does. No, it doesn't. But so whenever I say, whenever he asks for something, my knee-jerk reaction is like, we'll see. And he just like rolls his eyes and he goes, that means no. He's such a good boy. He's such a good boy. Oh, my kids are good. Our son Dominic and his wife Sarah, who is expecting their third baby. They have 2 little babies. They just got back from Bahamas. What was it, 5 or 6 years ago, they had bought a sailboat, a sailing yacht, and sailed all the way to South America. They went to Cuba, all over the Caribbean, all over South America in their sailboat with their dog. And they have an actual YouTube thing about it. And then he came home, and they had the sailboat down in Florida, keeps it there, and then he brought it up here to Pennsylvania. But then they have had 2 little babies very quickly, and she's expecting her third. So all of a sudden he comes back the last time they went sailing, and he's like, the boat's it's a 48-foot boat. He says, but the boat's getting a little bit small with 2 kids. So I think they're going to sell the boat. I'm like, been there, done that, because I was like petrified. I'm like, they're on the high seas. I don't like boats. I don't know. And they're very brave. They're very brave. He has his captain's license and everything. So he could actually captain sailboats now because he got his captain's license. Very capable. And his wife, Sarah, little tiny Sarah, she's so very capable. But I'm like, she's pregnant. She's like, oh, it's lovely. It's so nice. I'm like, oh, better you than me. But yeah. So why was I saying that? Oh, my kids, yeah. Yeah, they're sweet. Whoops. Anyway, I'm going to finish this up. I'm just nattering on, as you know. I'm here in my sewing room. This is a typical day in my sewing room trying to finish this quilt. So you will see the finished product in a little while. All right, thanks. I have come to the edge of the end of my binding, and I'm going to now attach the 2 ends together. Now I'm going to be doing this with a bias seam, like I made my bias seams before, on that angle, right? So now I have this part here, which I've left about a 6 or 7 inch tail, and I'm going to be leaving, let me see if that's in the frame. Yeah, I'm going to be leaving about 9 or 10 inches here. Now this one, I am going to cut off this here. I'm going to cut that off there, right? So I have that much left over. So now I'm just going to cut off a little piece of my binding. Yeah, I only needed 5 of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, let me just see, I'm going to just trim this bottom piece off. Let me take this out. Back stitch that. I'm going to put it in front of me. If you've seen me do this before, so I have this tail there, and I have that tail there. And oh, where's my pin cushion? Oh, here we go. I'm going to put this piece here. I'm just going to put I'm going to trim that off a bit. You'll see what I do. I'm going to trim that off. Now I'm just going to put a pin there. I'm going to put a pin there. Put a pin to secure it there. To secure that there. Now I'm going to bring this down here. Okay, I'm going to bring this tail this way. Now with my extra piece of binding, which I know is 2 1/4, I'm going to put this one flat right on top of that. This is laying flat that way. This is laying flat over here, this tail. Now I'm going to see where this edge is. Okay, where this edge of my binding on my bottom is, which is secured. I'm going to put this over nice and, don't pull it or anything. I'm going to take this and I'm going to find this piece of, I'm just going to find where the edge of this scrap piece is to the edge of that binding under there. Right? Now this is where you need to be brave. This is 2 1/4. Now I'm going to pick up my top binding and I'm going to cut right there. Toss that. Okay, and remove this. Now, when you bring it in front of you, I'm going to be making a bias seam. So what I do is, you can see that popped up like that. I'm going to open this up like this. Now this is exactly how I make my binding in strip method, right? So I'm going to pull this one up here. That one goes to this side. There's an angle. I don't know what angle it is. I'm going to open this up like that. Might want to allow yourself just a little bit more. And then I'm going to, if you want to secure it, by all means, I'm going to, I'll just pin that right there. I'm going to sew, if you want to mark it, by all means, I'm going to sew from the diagonal there, from the corner to the corner, from the corner to the corner. I'm going to slip that under my machine, make it all nice and loose. I should have left myself a little bit more, but that's okay. There's the corner, and I'm going to back stitch. Just go slowly. Now I can eyeball this diagonal seam. I can eyeball that. Just go slowly. I'm just doing that diagonal to this corner here underneath, and I'm going to do a back stitch, and then I'm going to trim my threads. And then before you trim anything, you want to make sure that your binding fits. And look at that. Nice and flat with a bias seam. Now I can come and I can cut this about 1/4 inch like that, and then I can just finger press that bias seam. Don't mess with it too much. And then you have the folds. You pull it, and then you go back to where you were. There. Back stitch a bit, and then just finish off my binding with no lumpy straight seams. Sometimes I have a lumpy straight seam, but I'm not really bothered. But this is a nice way to finish it off. And then right through. And then you have your finished binding with that lovely biased seam, just like you have your other ones. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it around, starting up at sort of one corner. And I'm going to turn it. I'm going to turn it, and I'm just gently tucking all that stuff in. I'm just gently pulling outwards, as you know if you've done binding. Just gently putting my presser foot, my needle right down, and then very, very smoothly and slowly I'm going to top stitch with my dark blue thread right around my quilt. And closing all that rubbish. And again, as you've seen me do my binding, you will know that yes, it is machined, and it is machined on the back. It is machined on the back. And I'm totally fine with that. I am totally fine. I'm using dark blue on the front. You can hardly even see that. And I'm using white in my bobbin, my white Aurifil in my bobbin. And there's a little tiny, let me see, there's a glare. Yeah, there's a little bit of tiny white stitching right along there. I'm absolutely fine with that. And so I'm just going to pull this out gently, always to the side, not sort of in front of you. You want your binding not to have any like wrinkles, you know, like any pull marks. It doesn't look like my hands are doing anything, but I'm holding it tightly in place. So I'm not pulling my binding. I'm tugging it so I can have a nice fit on the back. Some, you can hear my machine. Some of these are going through like quite a few bits of fabric here. And then I'm going to just finish this. Now this is 2 1/4 binding, and I think 2 1/4 inch. I think it's a nice size binding. And oh, very, very, very important. And I did tell Jen the last quilt she had made, she had bound her quilt, and her binding, for some reason, wasn't. Her quilt here wasn't filling her binding. There was sort of a bit of a not a nasty, but like a flappy bit on the edge there. She had, for some reason, she had not filled her binding up to the edge there with quilt. And I pointed it out. I'm like, oh, constructive criticism here. And she was happy, to lay down a better method in the future. I said, you really do want to fill this binding with fabric, with quilt edge. You don't want this sort of flappy bit here, just sort of material of their binding. You want your binding. If you could feel that, I mean, you can see it, but if you could feel that, you can see that that's a nice filled edge binding right there. So I'm just going to finish up. I'm finished my quilt. I have just put my label on the back of it. I finished my binding. I did put my free motion quilting foot on and found that bit that I didn't quilt. And now I lightly iron my quilts. I think I've been working with the fabric for weeks now, so I'm going to just lightly, just with a very, very light iron, just drift it over the top of my quilt and my binding to make my binding really nice and square. There's my rounded corners. I will show you. I label my quilts. What I have is a label that is pre-printed. It's a pre-printed label that I get from, I don't know, labels.com. I don't know what it is. And it says it's a flat long label. It's over here. Truelove Quilts for You, because that's my business on Etsy. Jean, trueloveaol.com, and a special quilt for you with a little sewing machine. I'll show you my label. But I put my labels on my quilts that I'm going to sell. Now, if I have a quilt that I'm going to gift, obviously I will do something maybe personalized, maybe embroider on my embroidery machine. I haven't done that for a while. Or even just an indelible pen, a real pretty printed floral label. If you go on websites and type in printed labels, fabric labels, they sometimes come in a whole panel, and you can cut out the labels, the individual labels, which have pretty flowers or geometric, and then with an indelible ink of waterproof or washing proof ink, you can ink in some information, perhaps not like your whole autobiography, but like your quilt when it was finished, who it's going to, from Aunt Sally to baby Josie or something like that. In the date. It'd be nice. Yeah, and maybe where your hometown. It's nice. Mine are a little bit more generically commercialized looking if I'm going to sell my quilt, which I probably will put this up. I'll enjoy it for a little while. I'm going to go press it, but here, I'm going to take some pictures. It's a very nice day outside. I'm going to go photograph my quilt. Oh, look how so pretty. And I'm going to I'm going to make a playlist on my YouTube from the very beginning. You saw my little baby granddaughters. They came in and were helping me select my fabrics for all of my circles. Oh, I like the dark. I like the dark around I like that dark around the edging for my quilt binding. I like that. I don't think I would have loved the black, just with all due respect. I like the dark blue. But yeah, it's very pretty. Very, very pretty. So I'm going to take pictures of it. You've seen me making it. It's a nice, as I was saying before, because I don't cut away the back of an applique, it's quite a nice substantial quilt. Nice. I've done all of my bits. And now I'm going to just tidy it up here. I'm going to get all my threads. Isn't it funny how all the threads, on the back of the quilt? Jen was saying that. She's like, where did all these threads come from? I'm going to cut them all away. And yeah, I'm going to admire my lovely galaxy circle quilt. So pretty. So I'm going to take some pictures. So thank you very much for being in my sewing room today as I finished up my quilt. All right, folks. Thanks. See ya. Bye.